all of us comes from the same material substance. We are all composed of the 5 elements, the earth, water, fire, wind, and the space. And there is, in the Vajrayana literature, discussion of external elements and internal elements. And there is also...
the space literature, Italia,
so this space here should be understood in terms of the vacuum, the empty space, rather than space in the technical sense of absence of obstruction. So in the Vajrayana literature, there is an understanding of the existence of external elements and the internal elements, and how at a very profound level they are related to each other. So maybe through understanding that relation, one can try to understand in a deeper way the way in which our karma affects the world.
So that Shevas Laveno for Rangsing She. Any that Shevalia, Kora Ring, Tungamang to Masone, Cumulate to Mare, Susan Lake, Kaure, such a legatonage and any young student, Gavin Gosha, Kauship.
So, as we discussed earlier, the fact that consciousness exists is a natural fact. The consciousness exists, that is it. And similarly, in terms of the continuum of consciousness, it is again a natural principle. Consciousness maintains its continuity. And according to Buddhism, and there is an understanding that consciousness cannot come into being from nowhere. It cannot come into being without a cause. And also, matter cannot produce consciousness. Consciousness does not come out of matter. Therefore, since consciousness cannot come into being without cause, and since so, of course, that is not to say that matter can affect consciousness. Matter can be a sort of a condition for the arisal of consciousness. But in terms of actual continuum of consciousness, matter cannot produce consciousness. Because when we are talking about consciousness, the nature of consciousness is this mere luminosity, mere experience, knowing faculty, and that cannot be produced from matter. So since consciousness cannot come into being from no cause, nor can it come into being from material cause, therefore consciousness must come from a sort of a ceaseless continuum. And it is, on that premise, Buddhism accepts the existence of beginning, sort of, formal lives. Similarly, we also find a lot of individuals who have very clear and vivid memories of their past lives. So when we talk about the origin of suffering, the sources of suffering, although there are karma and delusions, but the primary cause or the principal cause or origin of suffering really is the delusions. So, and it seems that depending on different interpretations of the fundamental Buddhist doctrine of anatma, no soul theory, it seems there is also differences in understanding the nature of klesha, nature of afflictive emotions and thoughts.
Pena Dundo Ome, Pena Rangiba mentioning, Lot Tundunizia, Tanjue, the church and Mink Takzangi, Tenjun Chamudigi, Namshagi, Tone, Davina, any Numu in them. Rangiba mentioning, Davina, Lot Tundunizia.
For example, that it seems that certain states of mind or certain thoughts and emotions which, according to, say, Madhyamaka Swatrantika schools or Swatrantika or Chittamatra schools, a state of mind or emotion which they may consider to be non-delusive, non-delusory. But from the point of view of Madhyamaka Prasangika's understanding of anatma or no soul doctrine, they would see that as again being delusory. Of course, this is a very complex point and would require a lot of study.
So now the important thing is that afflicted emotions, afflicted emotion is the ultimate enemy or the source of suffering. And also that is afflicted emotion. Once it develops within our mind, it immediately destroys our peace of mind. And eventually it destroys our health. And also it destroys our friendship with other people. So all these negative activities, such as killing, or bullying, cheating, all these negative actions come out of this afflicted emotion. So that's the real enemy. That's the destroyer of our peace, destroyer of our fortune, and including our health. So therefore, that's the enemy, real enemy. External enemy today may be harmful to you, but next day may be very helpful. But this is the inner enemy, always remain as a destructive. And moreover, that enemy, wherever you live, always there. That is very dangerous. External enemy, we can put some defensive measure. Also, like 59, we escaped. So we can escape. But there is this enemy, even whether in Tibet or whether in Potala, whether in Dharamsala, whether here in London, enemy. Wherever I go, this enemy there. Even I think some kind of meditation, some kind of visualization of mandala. Still, in the very center of the mandala, that enemy is still there. So this is the point now. We have to realize that. Now the question, so you see the real destroyer of our happiness, always there. How to do now? If there is, no possibility, if there is no possibility to overcome that, to eliminate that, then I think better forget. And I think relying more alcohol, sex, all these things, much better. If there is possibility to eliminate that, then I think now we must take this good opportunity. This is human body, human brain, human good heart. Combine these two things. Try to reduce that and eventually eliminate. So therefore, according to Buddhist teaching, our human body is precious. Why? Because of human intelligence. And it is shaping or it is changing our mind, not only through emotion, but mainly through intellectuals, reasoning. And there are two kinds of emotion. One emotion without any reason, just as a feel, such as hatred or these things. Of course, there are superficially some reasons, or this person is very harming on me, and then through that kind of analyze, you develop hatred. But in deep down, further goes, there's not much, reasons. So these emotions, without proper reasons. That's the negative emotion. And the other kind of emotion, such as compassion, altruism, a kind of emotion, but with reason.